What's up, sales professionals? It's Matt Smith here from Sales Hacker, and I'm super excited here to be with Matthew Carney. He's the Regional VP of Sales for DocuSign. And today we're going to talk about fostering a CEO mindset for your sales organization. No matter if you're the SDR at a small startup or you're the CEO of a major company, I think having that ownership mindset is really huge in sales because there's a lot of moving parts. And I think Matt's got some really good information for us today. So super excited to have you, Matt, and let's dive into it.
Thank you, sir. As Matt indicated, my name is Matthew Carney. I am Regional Vice President of Sales here at DocuSign. As DocuSign is growing as a company and we're adding many, many more sellers, this is actually a topic we've been talking about a lot with our enablement team of helping develop successful sellers within our company. So the things we're going to talk about today from a rough agenda perspective is what is a CEO mindset? And then how do you create that mindset through people, process, and technology? That just gives us a framework to talk about this topic. How might you get started? And throughout this discussion, we're going to have some Q&A. So Matt's going to engage with myself, as questions come up from all the attendees that are on the call here, and we're going to keep this pretty conversational. So the first part of this discussion, what we want to talk about is what a CEO mindset is versus sellers that don't operate that way, and talk about why it might be important. So we have two different columns here. On the left side, we're trying to communicate the current mindset your sellers may have. And on the right side, we're kind of looking at what a CEO mindset might be. So currently today, your reps may be focused on a number, right? They're defining their successes. Did I hit my quota or did I not hit my quota? They might find it difficult to understand on what went wrong or what actually drove their success, meaning can they make this repeatable? Do they know why they succeeded last quarter or last year? Do they have some insights into that success? And many times people are operating as a one-person show. They're lone rangers. They're hard on engagement and mass contribution, potentially of others that are contributing to their success overall. With a CEO mindset, we think that people see quota as a goal composed of multiple pieces. How are they using their franchise across MDRs, marketing, executive leadership, sales engineering? How does my team help me win, right? But then also understanding where this revenue is coming from. Are you waiting for leads to come to you? Or are you actually being proactive within your business and going to the ball, understanding where you can not only succeed with low-hanging fruit, but what exercises or actions you can take that may be most profitable for you. And then finally, thinking about your business overall is looking at various tactics and levers, whether that be people, partnership, tools, or technology. What are those levers that you can use to help you be successful? What is available to me?
Yeah, and one thing there, Matt, it's sales has changed so much in the last 10 years where it really was, the lone wolf mentality. You were the one guy out there and you had a phone and you're carrying your bag and you were just on your own. And I think now with SDRs and kind of the bigger focus on inbound leads, I think, that has really changed. And that's something that if you, as a rep, if you can figure out, even if you are an individual contributor and you don't have SDRs, there's ways to build your own little mini team if that's using virtual assistants, etc. So I think just overall, as sales professionals, we have to be more collaborative. One of the issues is that a lot of sales guys are former sports people, and they don't really bring us that mentality enough into the day-to-day. So in general, I completely agree that we need more teamwork from the sales team that tends to be very heads down and still kind of keeps that lone wolf mentality, really.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think that it's a bit of a cliche, and we talk about it internally, if it's a double-edged sword, right? We have so many tools and teams and things available to us now that perhaps weren't available in the past. So we're asking our sellers not only to take in and action all of those pieces of data that we're throwing at them in various tools, but also to manage that technology, to manage the people that they've been supported with and do it in a way that helps them be most successful. So as we start to take a look at why this is important, I think this leads into this part of the conversation is, we think that if you have a CEO mindset, you can maybe work a little bit smarter and not so hard. and it leads more to it leads more to acting proactively versus reactively. It's, are you managing your schedule, or is your schedule managing you, and then why? I think an example I have of sort of a CEO mindset directly relates to my team and maybe a couple of people that I have on the team, or a couple different types of sellers that exist. I have two individuals. They're both extremely successful, and they go about their business in a much different way. So whereas seller A is doing 100 opportunities on a quarterly basis and achieving their quota by 125%, seller B is doing half as number of opportunities, but they're succeeding just as much as seller A. And what would be ideal is if I can find a way for those two sellers to meet their skills in the middle. So not only are they able to adequately, manage maybe some transactional business that will help contribute to their number, but seller B is able to be equally as strategic to make sure he's maximizing what he can out of, his business and territory that's available to him.
I love that. I mean, one thing that we've talked about a lot at Sales Hacker is really, once again, these kind of dogma-related sales things. And one is just, qualified opportunities. The bigger the number, the better. And that's just not the case anymore, right? I mean, you really want a quality funnel of really high quality opportunities that meet your ICP versus just having a bunch of poor opportunities in your funnel. Inevitably, like, you can do it a few different ways. One is with volume, but I think as sales changes and it becomes harder and harder to generate those opportunities, you really want to make sure that the people you're going after meet your ICP, and you have a really nice funnel of really quality opportunities. So you're not wasting time on bad fit customers, essentially.
Right, and so if you can identify those within your space, right, and then manage and balance out not only strategic opportunities, strategic actions you can take, but things that are pretty tactical, we think you end up with sellers that are more successful, they're more collaborative, and they understand how their activity ties back to broader company goals. So reps start to understand how the business better because they're thinking about their own sort of objective as a business in and of itself. But that also can help them understand how their direct leaders and the business overall may be measuring them and their performance. So, Matt, we think a good way to talk about this, or a logical way, is to touch a little bit on maybe bucket these into a couple different categories. If you're creating a CEO mindset among your sellers, what does that mean in a people context in terms of process that you may follow, and then how they may view technology. So, really quickly, let's start with people. And, if you have some feedback on this, Matt, I'd appreciate it. But I think today, in general, most companies are looking in an interview process for people that have organizational skills. They have competence. You can assess some kind of business acumen that they're able to understand what companies are facing that your solution can help solve for. You're looking for people that have interpersonal skills, and most importantly, right, you need people that have negotiation skills. Can they negotiate something to a successful close? So we think that those are basic foundational skills that we're all looking for today. But we also think that there's some skills that may not be on your list, but we think are probably pretty important for a CEO mindset. So that may be humility. We talked a little bit in the beginning about how there are a lot of lone wolves out there, right? And that's great. But we think these people may adopt a mentality that they're the sole reason for their own success and others only contribute to their failure. So I'd argue people can take a step back, maybe pull in some other stakeholders, highlight the success of their sales engineers, their account managers, development reps, etc., as reasons for their individual success, and create a stronger team. Do they have the ability to shape culture? Meaning, can they learn from their peers? Can they learn from a diverse group of people and also be a Pied Piper, right? So this kind of goes back to the humility aspect of it. Sales reps can be cultural leaders that not only build trust and create an environment where everyone around them wants to not only meet their objectives, but they want to help that seller meet their own objectives and feel part of one team. We think that assertive kind of curiosity is another element or skill that you may be looking for within people who can adopt the CEO mindset. And these are people that are willing to ask hard questions and be willing to share even potentially controversial views with bosses, with customers, with their peers. and this is kind of a skill that confidence feeds into. It enables folks, I think, to really see around corners and have better conversations, not only with their people internally, but also their customers and prospects. And then finally, problem solving. What do we need to change to make people work? These folks can do more than just provide marketing specific messages, and really not only think about not only the people that they can use within their environment to help solve problems, but maybe where we solve problems in other places and companies like the ones that you're speaking with, and really leverage that business acumen that they have to make good recommendations to clients and prospects.
Yeah, so I think one thing there is approaching this kind of like business school, where you say either if you're an individual rep and you don't have someone helping you with this plan, or if you're the sales leader, you can actually create a people skills plan, if you will. Or you can say negotiation. Okay, how am I going to get better at negotiation this quarter or this year? Well, there's a great book called Getting to Yes. There's lots of good negotiation books out there. So boom, that's my one kind of training in the year and the quarter for negotiation. Okay, what about business acumen? What's a really good book or course that I can take that's going to help me with business acumen? So you can kind of break these things down and actually create a training plan for yourself or for your team, off some of these ideas that Matt's going to give you guys right now.
Yeah, not only a training plan, I mean, we think it allows you to also, potentially expand the number of skills that are part of your interview profile. And maybe just do some profiling within your own team, within your own representatives, to determine who's successful and make sure that's part of your recruiting process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing with sales reps is sometimes we feel like you do an interview and you say, "What's your favorite sales book?" And there'll be sales reps, obviously maybe not at DocuSign, but certainly at other organizations that I've been with, where they say, "Oh,
Solution Spinning, Sandler."
Yeah, the Steve Jobs. And you're like, wait, the Steve Jobs book, that's not a sales book. So I think, really as sales reps, we need to, be more passionate and more professional about our craft. And you should be able to say, I've read 100 sales books if you're really serious about kind of, taking this role and this, career seriously. So yeah, just totally agree with the stuff you're talking about.
So, I mean, another aspect that we think about in terms of building a CEO mindset among teams is not only how they view technology, but also how they leverage technology that's available to them. So, this is about the person taking on a mentality of, are the tools or the technologies available to me helping me understand information, or are they actually helping me execute on my objectives? We think the tools are ways to improve productivity and velocity, but they maybe need to go deeper. We think that tools help people understand, but they also sort of ask the question, can individuals look at technologies with the mentality of a business owner? So are they just looking at closed won and a listing of opportunities, or are they looking at trends that are happening in their business? And by trends, I kind of mean pipeline development, and having that data to hold yourself accountable, to hold your XDR accountable, right? How many leads did we produce in the last week, month, quarter, year? Setting objectives against that kind of data can help you be accountable, can help you be more successful, but also help your better team. How is my territory performing over time, and helping with goal sharing and socializing that success year over year, quarter over quarter, et cetera. If they're just looking at information and just being very reactive, I'm going to finish this task by doing this email, this shows me what's closed won, they may not be exploiting the technology to all it can be used for. So looking at how technology executes is really enhanced when sellers can take a composite view. And by composite view, I mean, what are the technologies available to me, and how do they help me achieve my different goals? How do different technologies enabling different goals of the business plan, that could be CRM, done for forecasting. It could be contact management tools like Yesware, Outreach, to help keep in touch with people or help prospect. And it could be acceleration technologies like DocuSign that really help you get deals done faster, and making sure if that's something that's available to you, that you're using it as part of your sales process. Finally, I think that we can foster probably a CEO's mindset to encourage technical adoption, and do this to reframe all of this with kind of a big picture to say to help recognize productivity impact for you and for others. So technology can sometimes be an inhibitor. And so what we're trying to encourage is with a CEO mindset, if you're looking at technology that is something that assists you with your business, not only in helping you understand what's going on, but execute actions to go after specific types of customers, to execute actions so that you can ensure that your XDR is meeting the objectives that they need, that you're doing things like entering next steps or information into Salesforce.com, not because your company is requiring you to do that, but because you understand that what you're entering there helps the broader business not only understand what's happening in that opportunity, it helps keep you organized, and it helps you be more successful because more people have visibility in that, the more people that may be able to help you get something further down the funnel.
Yeah, I mean, one way I love to think about technology is kind of the app or the piece of technology itself is like just a thing to learn, right? So not enough reps are reading the documentation around, how to use DocuSign effectively or any of the apps in their sales stack. I mean, you should be a power user. You should have read every FAQ on that app, and so that you really know how to use that app in terms of its features and its functionality. That's one way to look at it. And so that's kind of what I do with my reps first. I would say, look, you've got to master Salesforce or Pipedrive or whatever your app is, and go deep and really understand all the functionality that you have at your disposal. And then number two is, now that you understand that app, how does it work with your workflows? How does it work in the context of the business, of the leads, right? And so that's a different use case than just understanding the technology versus, how does the technology work in maybe a predictable revenue type of sales team structure. So really breaking it down, I really understand the app, and I really understand the app based on how my workflows and how to execute based off my sales strategy, etc.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, we're kind of looking for people to maybe have an aha moment, to say, technology is just not here because my business wants me to punch in a bit of data, but these tools have been provided to me in order to be successful. And so how can I use the most out of them to not only understand how all of these technologies may be able to help me accelerate my deal cycles and keep better touch with customers and track things from an informational basis better, but how can we help those technologies leverage in our own way to be successful? It's not just something our company is asking us to do. It's something that we can leverage to define our own success.
Yeah, and that's really a big thing at Sales Hacker is just our audience is so passionate about technology, and we all know and we've all lived it, where we invested in a tool and it changed the outcome of a sale or made us better as professionals. And so obviously we're preaching the choir a little bit here, but really embracing the technology, loving the technology, and getting deep and becoming a power user of all these technologies. Even things like getting Salesforce certified. Those are all good steps in the right direction, as we know, as sales becomes more and more technological kind of driven. There's more apps in your sales stack. Each of those apps is like a superpower, and I think that the more that you have in your tool belt, the more successful you'll be in your career. So I think we're aligned there, Matt.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that you can do this even by role, right? This applies not only to account executives, but XDRs, maybe people in business development. Like, how is this a superpower for not only your specific responsibilities, but how does that contribute to broader company goals? So let's talk a little bit about process and maybe how someone might go about adopting a CEO mindset or developing plans against it. And I think that's maybe a first good step is to create business plans, right? And you're going to have to determine this on an individual basis if you're working with an individual. I think a leadership lesson one of my mentors suggested at one time is kind of a show, do, tell mentality. What's needed to help your team build these business plans? I think that you can ask them to do it and see what they come up with. You can provide a template for them to do it, or that you can show them potentially business plans that you've developed in the past to help guide them in terms of what it is that they need to accomplish. I mean, part of this process, too, is just agreeing on some alignment for levers needed to achieve their goals. So business levers can be a direction on how revenue breaks down by, are we looking to make plans around upsell? Are we looking to make plans around renewal? Are we looking to make plans around new co-business or, qualified leads or opportunities that are being created? And then finally, or secondly, you can align levers on people. So set up expectations, set up a plan for the process around collaborating with partners. What's the communication cadence? How do you make sure you keep on track? How do you do some goal setting with the many teams that may exist as part of your franchise? And then finally, we suggest as part of the process is to measure this completely. To develop the plan, execute on the plan, and then measure that at midpoints throughout a quarter or throughout a year. And this is something, again, customers can, or sellers can do across their franchise and with different leaders to ask questions like, how are we pacing? Is there enough pipeline for me to be able to hit my objective? And are there chances that we can take to maybe goose success? So that could be leveraging events, doubling down on prospecting in segments, and understanding what prospects may be rich in low-hanging fruit for us. So how do you leverage all of that data that you have, things that may be going on beyond your environment, because now you have a broader view, to implement as part of your plan and help you measure against your success?
Yeah, in terms of really tactical process-related stuff, one piece of advice I've given to reps before, and I've done for myself, is kind of documenting out your key workflows and trying to find where there's inefficiencies. A lot of times you're not being very efficient with these things that you're doing. Sales is very repetitive, so you're doing the same process over hundreds of times, and you haven't actually even written down what is the process, and is there a checklist? Is there a checklist for this process? Am I doing things inefficiently in terms of a technology standpoint, a workflow standpoint, et cetera? So, really getting clear on what are your key processes in your sales process and documenting those and trying to optimize and remove any inefficiencies, I think is a nice way in terms of time saving to make sure that you're not just, kind of mindlessly doing the same task over and over versus kind of thinking through what you're doing.
You're spot on, Matt. So let's start to maybe pull this together and talk about how we might get started, either as individuals, as leaders within organizations, to get started on encouraging and empowering a CEO mindset within teams and individuals. So, I think we just talked about plans a little, and they're best practice, but we all know that formalized plans are ideal, but don't always happen, right? They don't always get accomplished. So I'd argue that there's a starting place, and we'd make some recommendations. It can begin with a couple of shifts that can start with a mindset and then be followed by formalized actions. So I think the first thing you need to do is define what's possible within your business and what's going to work best, right? When I work with reps to discuss elements, skills, mindsets, variables that should be considered as part of the approach, I kind of recommend that they be bucketed in two different areas to help understand what's in front of you and build a plan. So I bucket the two areas, again, the element, skills, mindsets, into how do we make plans around overall territory management, but proactive opportunity management. So with territory management, I define that really as what's possible for you by understanding the dynamics of your territory. How do you segment and size your market? How do you pay attention to look at the territory in different ways against your business metrics? So that means just not just looking at your list of prospects and customers and saying, where haven't I sold, but to go deeper than that. Again, to do some of that measuring of your territory against things like either revenue size or employee size, to understand if that's a good way to look at my market. Are there hidden opportunities, right? Look, instead of looking just what's ahead of you, look to the past. Understand your lost opportunities, your lost customers. This all contributes to your territory management. And then how am I doing and what's my market size? Like, what's my current pacing? What are my number of prospects? Who am I going after? Compare growth targets not only year over year, but understand of those prospects that you have within your territory, how do you develop plans with your XDR to tackle that? Secondly, I think we bucket this in terms of getting started, in terms of developing the plan, into proactive opportunity management. So how do you best progress what's in front of you? Reps can have many active opportunities. XDRs can have just a tremendous amount of leads. So how do you manage those, organize, or prioritize? And this is about like leveraging the technology you have, right? Next steps can always be present within opportunities. We talked a little bit about that visibility and how that's helpful to everyone within the company and stakeholders in general. Reassessing how you can move an opportunity forward versus waiting for a task assignment within the CRM, so that you're using a CRM not only as a way for you to proactively understand how you're moving an opportunity forward, in addition to the automated task that may be assigned to you. So I think define what's possible in a business, figure out the aspects of the business plan that make sense, potentially use proactive opportunity management and territory management as pillars to work from, and then use the plan with objectives and levers that impact people and tools to plan attack against your opportunities, and then align stakeholders for what you would like them to do to help you get there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm passionate about is really kind of being very detailed in terms of your ICPs and your list building, and you should have almost your own taxonomy for these type of accounts, right? You should have a tier, these A or B or C clients. If you have a funnel, you don't want to have a bunch of SMB type deals. You want some big fish in there. You want some, named accounts that you'd be very excited about closing that, maybe in terms of revenue it's not that exciting, but maybe in terms of growing your business, pushing you forward, of something to put on your resume, those are benefits of having those named accounts. So you should be really specific when you're building your list. This is something that I've screwed up a lot. The more time you spend on the front end building your list, creating a taxonomy for it, a way to organize it, a way to tier that out or pull those reports in the CRM, the more successful you're going to be when you actually do that outreach. As sales reps, like we kind of said, we're type A type people who like to do a lot of activities and really sell, and email, and call, versus taking a month, I know this sounds crazy, take a month and build an amazing list. And really understand what that list looked like. Really be selling into ICPs you want to. So kind of slow down at the front end to speed up later. And this is a common mistake that most sales reps make. Now with all the technology we have to build these lists, it's very easy to build a list of 1,000 prospects right now in an hour and start emailing them an hour later, versus taking weeks to go through the list, get it set up in the CRM, understand who you're going to sell into, and have a really good attack plan versus just create a list and start kind of blasting people. That's not successful in today's kind of selling environment, especially for bigger enterprise type deals, which everyone wants to close.
So, Matt, I think some key points that we want everyone to take away from the time that we've had today is really to encourage sales reps to look at goals in a different way. So again, instead of looking at it binary of I hit my objective or I didn't hit my objective, it's more about how can I hit my objective and leverage all of the people available to me and all of the technology available to me and all the tools that enable me to be successful, not only to hit my objective, but potentially make much more money or be much more successful, by doing that. And also, as a result of that, to understand the broader business goals better. How do you execute change across people, technology, and process to help you be successful? And that's all about managing each of those different aspects to define your success. And then finally, make some suggestions to get started with small shifts. It could be a mindset shift. It could be formalized business plans. But we hope that the takeaway here is at least some ideas on how you might be able to enable your selling franchise to succeed individually, but also pull other parts of the organization together and view it as their mini business that they can build from.
So a few of the questions. We will have this webinar available on Sales Hacker U, and we will also get a copy of the deck from Matt so that it is available for everyone here, and that will be available free on Sales Hacker U for the foreseeable future, and it should be up in the next few days. So that kind of answers that question. There was one question about the list building, and sorry if I was confusing there. Basically, what I was recommending was to take your time on the front end and to build a really quality list, and then do the outreach. Too many times reps are anxious to start the outreach versus spending the time on the front end to build a really nice list. So build a great list, be very detailed with how you organize it, how you categorize those customer profiles, and then once you feel really good about your list, then do the outreach. You have anything to kind of add on that piece, Matt, in terms of list building?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that the point we're trying to make, though, is as you're developing that list, maybe look at different dimensions that you hadn't before. Are you just pulling it by industry? If you're pulling it by industry, how can you prioritize a little bit further, right? Maybe you want to pull by industry and then pull by revenue size because they have more money to spend, or pull by the number of employees because there's more of a user base for you to tackle or more opportunity that may exist in there. So not only develop those lists, but be a little more critical about how you prioritize or decide in which order you start calling down on those.
Yeah, obviously now we're seeing with these tools the ability to pull based off technology stack that the prospect is using. So that would be one dimension to add into your list building. If you're selling something that's a good fit for Salesforce, then pulling leads based off who's using Salesforce makes a ton of sense. Not everyone's doing that now, but obviously in the future that's going to be a bigger kind of component or piece of the ICP that we're looking at when we're building these lists. So one question for you, Matt, was ideas around compensation to encourage some of these behaviors that we talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we're tackling internally too. I mean, I think that based on what company objectives are, you may want to align those company objectives to individual objectives. So say, for instance, you're trying to ensure that professional services not only is seen as something important and critical for your customer success, but it's also seen as an area where people may be discounting heavily, or they view it as something where we don't need to recognize revenue for. You may want to adjust compensation plans not only to compensate just on new revenue generated, but also in specific areas that are important to a company. What that does is it actually forces reps to make a change in terms of how they're executing their business, and it's just going to change their mindset too in terms of how they may manage a deal. So I think the brief advice in that would be to develop comp plans that align with corporate objectives that you want to go after, that can help reps think about selling in more ways than just obtaining another dollar of revenue.
Yeah, I mean, people don't understand in terms of the comp stuff how the silliest little things will change behaviors, right? So a $100 Amazon gift card, you'd be surprised what people would do in terms of their day-to-day activities and the behaviors you want for a gift card. For books, right? We just talked about training plans. Go out and buy some really great sales books, some great entrepreneurship books, and then when a rep does something well and it's the behaviors you want to see, give them the book, give them the gift card. So there's very kind of low-cost ways that they're not going to cost you very much, and they're going to drive results. So that would be something that any sales team can do regardless of budget, just having these little prizes, sweepstakes, games, kind of making it fun versus hard. Here's the training, here's the behaviors I want, and if you don't do it, you're in trouble. I think using the carrot versus the stick is going to be probably more successful for a lot of sales reps who, myself, I'm not great with authority, so I would rather get a book or a gift card when I do well versus kind of getting yelled at when I do poorly. So that'd be one kind of piece of advice I would have there in terms of comp that's pretty easy to execute for most sales teams.
Yeah, and I mean we'll do different spiffs here within our own company to align with different objectives we're trying to achieve. That could be number of new customers that are being brought aboard. But I would also argue that you can encourage this mindset even without making changes to compensation. So, for instance, I would provide is that my team is heavily motivated by dashboards. So if I want them to start thinking about different aspects of their business, such as what is your average sales price, on a new company perspective versus upsell, how many leads are you and your MDR producing on a weekly or quarterly basis. What percentage of renewals that exist are you seeing people make additional investment, or are we seeing people stay flat? Like, even just showing them those kinds of metrics, it can help them change their mindset and potentially behave differently, because in general, at least my team is highly competitive and they all want to be at the top of that scoreboard.
So there are some questions around negotiation. How do you train to be a good negotiator? What are skills that you would need? I mean, my favorite book is Getting the Yes, very kind of popular, famous book about negotiation. And some of the kind of points there are, I think, removing yourself and kind of aligning yourself with the prospect. So it's, you and the prospect tackling the problem, whatever the objection is in terms of the negotiation. And so, you're on the side of the prospect attacking this problem together versus, you and the prospect are banging heads on this, potential negotiation. So that'd be like one way to think of things. I think reps are so quick to close the deal, and they're just hesitant to want to do any negotiation. So I think just being a little more comfortable with the ability for the deal to not happen. If you are so itching to get the deal, the prospect can feel that, and then inevitably, you're not in a good place to be a negotiator if you're just so hungry to get the deal that you have no leverage, you have no ability to walk away. So that would be a few ideas I would have around negotiation. Matt, you got anything there?
Negotiation's tough, right? Because some people naturally are great negotiators. Other, it's a developed skill. You can do that through some books. I know we have some enablement sessions that we provide our people from a training perspective on negotiation. I'll point people to maybe some resources that I have just from my experience. But some of it, or a lot of it, is just actual experience. So when they're running into issues with specific deals, if as a leader you can, not only you want the individual to be seeking out advice to help them become better, but I would also recommend providing some advice or guidance on how they can improve it. So a couple examples that I would give is that I had someone just even last week who was going into negotiation, and she was communicating to her customer the things that we were not going to be able to agree to as part of a renewal process. And Matt, I think this hits on what you were saying, is it's a kind of an aggressive way to approach a negotiation. So I think always encouraging people to ask the question, how are you approaching this conversation with your customer? People want to hear what you can do. If you start a conversation with what you can't do, you automatically put folks in a defensive position. So in order to create a collaborative discussion, start talking about, hey, I understand that you review this transaction happening in X, Y, and Z way. What I'm able to do is agree to X. Y I have a little bit of trouble with, and Z I think we might have some trouble altogether because it's something we can't agree to. So I think part of it's helping people in terms of how they communicate messages as part of a negotiation, to make sure that they're thinking about what they have to work with, what is their specific leverage that the customer may have, and what's the leverage that as a partner or a vendor you may have. So the customer, for instance, may be spending a whole lot of money with someone and may have bought a lot of different products, but the partner, the vendor, may be looking at it and saying, yeah, but I'm selling it to you at a killer rate, and I know that if you go out in the marketplace, you can't get it anywhere else. So it's a matter of understanding not only how both parties can meet in the middle to find a successful outcome, but I think a lot of negotiation is just about how different messages are actually communicated.
Yeah, and I think sales reps sometimes don't invest in the process in terms of getting prepared to negotiate. So having a document that is all your kind of objections, and this is basic stuff, but a lot of people don't do it. What are all the kind of common objections that you receive? What are the points that are typically negotiated or that you need to kind of have some wiggle room on? And have a document that explains, okay, when they ask for a discount, this is typically our response. And then you kind of put the whole team around this messaging, so you have very standardized messaging. When you get in that negotiation, you're prepared. I think sales, salespeople do not, if you're going to do a negotiation with a lawyer, he's going to spend hours preparing, right? But we'll have sales reps who will just, they'll do 5 minutes of prep before the call and they'll jump on and kind of wing it. So really invest in the process, document these things, and I think that will kind of help you be more successful when you're in a negotiation. The more prepared you are going into it, the more successful you'll be, when you're actually kind of doing that part of the sales process. Cool. So that's all the questions we got. It was a great webinar, Matt. Really appreciate your insights. Thanks, everyone, for your time today. And this webinar will be on Sales Hacker U. Matt, you got anything to say to the sales hackers here before we sign off?
No, I mean, I think we appreciate the opportunity to be able to collaborate with you all, and appreciate everyone's time and hope you find some value in this, and good luck out there.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I know.